Bobby Shoemaker, Barbara Bowley filling in for Andrew this week. It's Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge for Friday, May 20th. 4 races on the docket as always. 3 at Santa Anita this week and only 1 at Pimlico. Barbara and I just decided with the pending rain in Baltimore and could be looming scratches and maybe races taken off the turf. We just didn't want to chance that, and we were confident that we'd be fast and firm in Arcadia, California. So we'll go 3 there, and then we'll end with the big one in Baltimore. So, Barbara, let's get right to it. Let's go to Santa Anita Race 7. It's a $58,000 allowance optional claimer. It's a 1.5 miles on the turf for 3-year-olds and up. It's a field of 9, and the 9-horse Cardiac is your 5-2 morning line favorite. I know you're going to give us 3 plays, but initially, give me your thoughts on the 9. Do you believe he is the deserved favorite morning line-wise?
I think that's a very fair price on that horse, actually, Bobby. I made him my blue chip play, as you know. In our power picks that are available at thetournamentedge.net, we have the team get together and look at different races that would be interest any particular week to contest players or wagerers. And I like your selections this week, by the way, to talk about on Tournament Talk, because they were all pretty key toward the end of some of the major contests.
Right.
Most of these later ones at Santa Anita, this being the first of the 3 at Santa Anita we'll be talking about. And you may end many of your contests with the Preakness, and we'll talk about what strategy you use there. But what I like about what you chose is we've actually got some races where you can get prices. A 1.5 mile race on the turf is always an interesting scenario. But I really do think this horse is deservedly the favorite. I'll give you my reasons if you want to give me, yours as far as your blue chip play. Let me just ask you that first and foremost. Is this your top play?
This is not my type play. I ended up with the 3-horse Sevy's Road 9-2 morning line, the Phil Diamato Tyler Bass horse, Barbara. I just felt like the connections were the best in the field. Phil Diamato has supplanted himself as not only one of the best trainers on the West Coast, I think he's one of the best trainers, dirt or turf, in the United States. And a lot of his success has been with Tyler Bass aboard, and especially out at Santa Anita. So I like this horse's last effort. I'm a big fan of second or third off the layoff. This horse is third off the layoff. And I really like the horse's last effort. I think the last effort from this horse was the best yet. I liked how he finished in the race. I didn't feel like the comment line said faded or they didn't like the way he finished. I didn't think that was a fair assessment of the horse from watching the replay. I think he might want to go long. I think he'll set a good trip, and I think he's going to win the race. So I don't believe Cardiac should be the favorite, and I'm not sure he will be by the time they go out of the gate.
That is fascinating, because I think he's an outstanding play at 1.5 miles on the turf. For me, 1.5 miles on the turf is a lot like a very small field kind of race, in that there's a big component of jockey strategy
Right.
in the race. I happen to think that on the turf, you've got a great rider in Gonzalez, and he's got early speed, and I think if you look at a lot of 1.5 mile races, they're one on the front end with tactically positioning your horse so that they're up there front and early, and it's almost a myth to think that horses close in well to 1.5 mile races. Having said that, I will say you've got the best closer on the grounds in Tyler Bass with your selection. But I really like the fact that this horse is consistent. He's spaced better. I really don't think he's an undeserving favorite, actually.
As far as the pace is concerned, I know you mentioned you thought this horse was going to be forwardly placed and had some early speed. Do you see anything else going with him from a pace perspective? Do you think he's going to have it his own way on the front end? Again, referring to the 9 Cardiac.
Oh, I think Gonzalez is savvy enough to get him up there. This horse does place himself well in the front early, and I don't see why Gonzalez, who seems to be able to read the racing form, won't do that.
As far as value is concerned, what would be your value play? And then obviously give us a long shot if things were to fall apart.
If things were to fall, I think my value play actually has the same odds as my long shot. My value play is the 7, Pretentious. He's coming off the layoff. had a troubled trip last start. But I'm going to contradict myself a little bit in saying that while I like Victor Espinosa, I don't think he's the best turf rider out on. I mean, his stats prove it that he's not the best turf.
We can agree on that for sure.
Yeah. So I'm concerned about that. But the horse has some pretty decent figures, and I think he can get the distance. I think he'll be up for a piece. I just don't think he's going to beat Cardiac. But if I had to go for another possibility in one of our, what we call high yield. In other words, if you're wanting to look for some really good odds, or if you're in a contest and need the odds, I like Apostle Paul. Did you look at him at all?
I looked at this whole field twice, Barbara, and I thought it was a 3-horse race. I thought between Cardiac and my selection and the 1 horse, I thought one of those 3 horses was your most logical winner. I don't see this race being anything off form by any stretch of the imagination.
This is fascinating. You and I, do we definitely look at the same card? I just want to make a little plug for Abel Escano as a turf rider. By the way, he is a tactical rider. The horse is coming off a very hot work, so he might be forwardly placed with Lescano, who is who's a rider who's not probably going to be coming from.
No, he's very aggressive for sure.
Exactly. What I don't like is the horses coming in from Golden Gate. I mean, there's trying to find the angle of 1.5 miles Golden Gate to Santa Anita. You're not going to find much.
Right.
But again, it could be up for a piece. So I'm not a big player of jockey angles, but I do it on a couple of occasions and types of races. And this 1.5 miles on the turf is one where I do, and I really think Gonzalez is going to be great, and he can control it.
Well, Barbara is on the 9 Cardiac. I sided with the 3-horse Sevy's Road at 9-2. So, Barbara, let's move on to Santa Anita Race 8 on the card. And, in fact, before I do that, I did want to mention Andrew's picks because he did send me an email before the show to let everyone know his picks. In race...
I'm sorry to interrupt. He's got 3 different horses in this race.
Well, from the notes he gave me, he thought the 9-horse, he sided with you. He thought the 9-horse Cardiac was the horse to beat. So, Santa Anita Race 8, $58,000 allowance, optional claimer, Barbara. It's 6.5 furlongs on the dirt for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. It's a large field, which what we like from a gambling standpoint, a field of 13. And Copa, the 4-horse, your 3-1 morning line favorite. I think certainly a beatable favorite for 2 reasons. First of all, facing winners for the first time is a huge angle that I'm against. And second of all, a 202-day layoff. I respect what the horse did, Barbara. First time out, layoff, facing winners. I don't think so at 3-1.
I think that's a big ask for a horse to be that low in its odds, even though it's not a super low odds morning line. I just don't like that morning line price at all, and I wouldn't even pick the horse at somewhat higher odds. I ended up for the blue chip play on the 1. Discounts on the square, and we talked about Tyler Bays before being a great finisher. He's going to get this horse up there and finish really strongly with it. He's just so strong in that aspect, and her numbers look really good. She's a pretty consistent sort too, which you can't always say about a lot of the fillies. So.
Right. As far as your value play is concerned, where'd you go there?
Tis a Tommytown. Has never gone this far, but most horses can get 6.5. I'm not too worried about that. And then the connections are so outstanding. Hollendorfer and Garcia, they just got tremendous percentages. And
no questions.
She looked pretty good. 12-1, I thought.
Yeah, you can never discount, and this is what I talked to Andrew about this with Chad Brown, Irad Ortiz. I understand when they get horses and they're in graded stakes races and they don't look very good on form, you just sometimes you got to throw that out, especially from an exotic perspective. Playing pick 4s, pick 5s, if you can afford to go deep, guys like Chad Brown and Jerry Hollendorfer are guys that you just have to include in exotic play. So I certainly understand why you like the 12, just based on value with Jerry Hollendorfer and Martin Garcia. who's an aggressive rider within himself in a race in which, in my opinion, you need to be aggressive.
You will need to be aggressive in this race. You've got you're gonna see a lot of back and forth on this one. I think in the running of it.
What about your big long shot?
My big long shot came in at 15 to 1. West mid.
Okay.
How about you?
I landed on my top selection is your blue chip play. Discats on the square, the one horse at 4 to 1. Here's why. Second off the layoff, Tyler Bays. I was already complimentary of him in the last race. I think he gets lost in the shuffle from that jockey colony out there with Raphael, Victor, Kent DeSormo, and others. He's a very good rider, as I mentioned. I think his 2 races at Del Mar last fall, Barbara, win this race handily, especially that last race before the layoff at Del Mar. The post is a concern to me to a certain degree. I don't think this horse will be on the lead, so he's going to have to work out a good trip. But I think in the end, the best horse is going to win, especially with a jockey that I have a lot of confidence in. I don't know if this horse is going to drift up or be bet. I don't have a good feeling for what the public thinks of this horse early. I guess I can defer to you there if you have an opinion on where you think his odds will be when they go out of the gate.
Well, as a SoCal resident and was into Santa Anita and had horses run at Santa Anita, Bays is highly regarded. He's doing well right now, so I wouldn't see a massive drop in odds, but you may not quite get to 4 to 1. I'm not really sure about that, but I think it's square price.
Well, you're on the one horse, Discats on the square, and I'm on the one horse, Discats on the square. So lastly, at Santa Anita, Barbara, and certainly not the least, and before I forget, Andrew was on the 11 horse there, Wonderful Lie at 6 to 1. So we're across the board at Santa Anita Race A.
He's giving you a lot of options.
We certainly are.
Reading is not, this week has not been one of total consistency, but that's okay.
Right.
Our angles.
So, again, Santa Anita Race 9, a Grade 2 Kona Gold Stakes. It's a salty field, Barbara, of 10. Subtle Indian is your 3 to 1 morning line favorite. They're going 6.5 furlongs on the dirt. I thought Subtle Indian was much the horse to beat despite shipping in from Oaklawn Park.
Well, what a weird angle. I mean, how often do we see Oaklawn Park? Not only one, 2 Oaklawn Park.
Not very often. Not very often.
Yeah. I don't know when I seen Ramon Vasquez at Santa Anita. I don't remember when was the last time I saw him there. But TT's blue chip play is pretty consistent among a lot of us this week. I'm on that one too. I think Subtle Indian's much the best. Diodoro is so great with shippers. The horse has also had some experience at the track in the morning, has done well. So I'm not. Diodoro needs to, doesn't need any, advice from me as to how to get a horse ready.
Are you worried at all, being a former trainer, about the ship from Oaklawn? The reason why I say that, I'm a numbers guy, analytics. So I see numbers that may be high at, let's say, a racetrack like Parks, and then those horses go to Aqueduct and they don't run as fast. So obviously we're talking about a different situation here with Oaklawn Park to Santa Anita. Is that a concern at all? Would it be a concern that this horse may not take to the track and just run slower figures?
I'll tell you my tracks that I am worried about when I see that, and it is Parks and it is Los Al.
Okay.
When I see high numbers. Oaklawn, definitely not so much, especially not with a horse that's been on the grounds and has had a nice workout in the morning already. Clearly likes the track, from all indications. So, the Oaklawn-Santa Anita connection is something you have to do some archaeology on and really dig and see how well they do. It is a rare combo, but it is also one that I can't say is a toss either. So I'm not worried. I'm just not worried because the connections are so strong on the horse. Even if you want to take the figures down a bit and do some corrections, I just don't see that the horse doesn't figure even there.
I mean, Barbara, there is a lot of horses that want to go to the lead here, but I just don't think they're fast enough to go with Subtle Indian. So they're going to be forced to chase a horse that I feel like is much better, and they're going to compromise themselves. I just think this horse is going to be able to break well, get to the rail, save the ground. I mean, he's 4 for 4 in 2015. His numbers just tower over this field. Again, He's the speed of the speed. What's not to like? He's just going to wire. He's just going to wire this field. As far as I know, you got two other selection here. Your value play and why?
My value and I couldn't find anything that was tremendous value as far as what I thought would win. But I mean, if you're looking for somebody in case Vasquez just freaks out when he sees the beautiful palm trees in California,
right?
I don't know what happens to him. There's only something. It's all up to Vasquez. I don't think it'll be Subtle Indian.
No.
But if something happens there, I'm looking at Cautious Giant, the 3.
Okay.
I love Santiago Gonzalez. He's such a major upgrade over John Court, frankly, who was on this horse last time at Oaklawn. He's handled horses at approximately this level before, never really done stellar work, but
sure.
Love the price. So, if you're in a pinch, either in a contest or if you just want to have a little fun with an exotic or, more throw it to the wind kind of wager, that's who I thought, both in my value and my high yield.
A horse I wanted to like, Barbara, from a value perspective, and I read this race before the PPs came out, was Coastline. I took this horse March 12th when he lost to Kobe's back when I was in the 100K. If he doesn't have a bad trip, I think he's going to be the winner in that race, and a lot of things are different for me that day, to say the least. But then I see 4-1. I'm sorry. That race was too slow, in my opinion, to warrant being 4-1, despite losing to Kobe's back, who I personally find to be vastly overrated, even though he's really loved in California. I just don't see any value in here. I think Subtle Indian is the most logical, and if something crazy happens, I guess something else wins. But I don't think it'll be Coastline in this race. I think you're on the right horse. If things fall apart, I don't think you can discount Cautious Giant, specifically based off that last effort at Oaklawn Park when he came out of the clouds and lost to Subtle Indian. But the finish doesn't show how he was coming on late in that race. I do think I like your creative thinking there from a value standpoint. But if you're getting by Subtle Indian with confidence, then you must know more than I do.
Yeah, and I think we need to caution our contest players at this point is that we're looking at some lower priced horses here coming toward the end of your contest play, and you may want to think about front loading some prices early on in your contest, because I don't think you're going to be able to do a lot of catch up toward the end of the.
And maybe the players will have the opportunity to do that, Barbara, with as crazy as Pimlico is going to be with the off surface. I mean, because we just don't know how horses are going to run on a yielding turf course or a sloppy racetrack.
Pimlico's off the turf court races will be interesting. The slop for most of the races will be interesting, but to segue into our final race of the night, I don't think anybody's going to touch Nyquist. I don't know how you feel. I don't know what Andrew has to say, but I just don't see it.
Well, as Barbara mentioned, we are on to the big one. It's the Preakness Stakes, race 13 at Pimlico. It's $1.5 million. Andrew was on Cautious Giant, by the way, in the last, and he is on Nyquist as well in this race. Barbara, I'm just going to tell you that I'm not going to pick Nyquist in this race, and it's not because I don't respect him. It's not because he didn't certainly prove me wrong in the Kentucky Derby and run a heck of a lot faster than I ever thought he could. He's going to be doing something on Saturday that he's never had to do before, and that is run on a very off racetrack. And there's one other horse in this race that I know can run very well on an off racetrack, and he's proved it twice, and that's Exaggerator. I think that there is a possibility that this pace could be hot, led by Lauban. I think Nyquist could chase that speed, compromise himself just a little bit, and Exaggerator, who we all know, there's no hypotheticals here, there's no gambling here. We know he loves an off surface. He's proved it. And I think he may just pick up the pieces late. The other angle is this. Nyquist is a freak show. He won't care what they're running on, and he'll win going away anyway. But I just feel like, because I know what Exaggerator can do on an off racetrack, I have a lot of confidence in Kent DeSormo and giving that horse the best opportunity to win every race he's in. I just roll with Exaggerator at 3-1 because I know it's going to be sloppy.
Well, I think you make an interesting point. The slop is an issue, and the really cool thing about this field Not that I'm getting past Nyquist. They're not going to convince me. But anyway, still the cool thing about this field is what you're pointing out. They're experienced in a slot. Did you notice how many of these horses have done well in an off track? I mean, in fact, the majority have.
I did notice that, but not as well as Exaggerator.
No, not as well as Exaggerator. I agree with you there. And Kent is so motivated to do well on this horse. However, I think Nyquist can run on glass. He is just from a trainer's perspective. He's just such a mature warrior, alpha male. He's if he was, he's not going to be coming from the far back, and it's not going to be that he's going to have a half ton of mud in his face coming toward the finish line. He'll be up there up front. And I can't see beyond it. Sorry, I have nothing creative to say.
I get it, and believe me, if we were fast and firm at Pimlico, I would have said Nyquist and moved on. I just think that, again, I cannot stress enough, I don't know what Nyquist is going to do, and I know what Exaggerator is going to do, and that is run well. Any value at all here? Would you throw, if you need a bomb, Barbara, in a tournament, if you're down big, who would you roll with at a price?
I thought Collected had a possible chance, and if you want to go just really, if the whole field just starts freaking out, I was looking at Abiding Star at 30-1. I don't love Park Shippers coming in even to Pimlico, but again, we're talking about horses who have some experience on and off track and have decent numbers in those last two, especially Collected. Stradivari is the one a lot of people, the wise guys, are talking about, and
your thoughts on that horse. I didn't want to get off here without getting your thoughts here. He's highly touted because of Todd Pletcher. He looks good at Keeneland, but it's still not fast enough to win this race.
No, he's a horse that beat a field very handily. It was a flashy performance, but you've got tested warriors, even in some of the lesser horses here, and he's just not at their level. And this is going to be an ugly race with the level of off track we've got. So I think he's we'll see, but I wouldn't bet.
Yeah, I think for me, my price horse is going to be, and I'm going to put this horse in a try. The only thing I'm going to do with Pimlico on Saturday, as far as this race is concerned, is bet Laubon in a try with the two big horses. I have been a fan of this horse since I took him in the Gotham, and I thought he was going to win that race at about the 16th pole, and Shaggoff, who I know didn't represent himself very well in the Kentucky Derby, passed him. I just think he's got exemplary speed, and maybe he can get out in the mud and be a handful turning for home and finish second or third. I don't know that. I'm not confident in that, Barbara, but this horse is 30-1. He's probably going to go off higher than that, in my opinion. And if you can get him in a try and you punch the button a few times, you can make some profit. I think Laubon, from a value perspective, is the horse because I know what he's going to do. They're going right to the lead, and they're going to go really fast for as far as they can. And sometimes that works out when it comes to finishing in the money.
Especially on an off track.
Right.
Speed, the old adage, speed on an off track, especially on a major stakes race day when they're going to make sure that track is lightning fast anyway. It's going to be graded the night before, so I hear, and it'll be as fast as they can make it. And the horses in the front have by far an advantage over the horses coming from behind. And
that's a very interesting point that you make, because I remember Victor Espinosa's comments last year after the Preakness. He and Bob had not decided what they were going to do as far as pace-wise. I think Bob had told Victor, make a decision on what you want to do, and then here they are in the post-parade, and the skies open up, and at that point, Victor made his mind up. He's going straight to the lead. So I think Laubon is just the fastest horse in this race. Now, how far he can carry that speed, Barbara, I don't know, but I'm pretty confident that turning for home, he'll probably still be in the lead, and it'll be up to the two big boys to come get him, and I'm sure they will, but maybe he can clunk up and finish third.
I like it. Our picks are up on TTE, our power picks for the race and for the day, the full card. I also wrote a piece in Forbes where I said the only way to get anything out of this race is to bet a try or superfecta. And like you, I did include Laubon in my third slot. So I just don't see getting past Nyquist.
So you may not be on the show again for a while, depending on Andrew's schedule. But let's just say hypothetically before we go, Nyquist wins on Saturday, and I know you don't know the field 3 weeks from Saturday, but do you honestly think that we could be seriously looking at our second consecutive Triple Crown?
I wouldn't put money on that.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest with you, I don't think this is no American Pharaoh. He's a really strong horse in a decent year, but
just too tough.
He's just not. He's not at that level. I wouldn't put money on that today.
I respect that very much. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge. For Bobby Shoemaker, that's Barbara Boley. And as always, and until next time, good luck.
Good luck.
That was good.